Imagine you're sitting at a red light. It's past midnight. The intersection is completely empty. No headlights, no movement, nothing. Still, you wait there, engine idling because your brain is screaming that this light is pointless. After all, the traffic light is just running its timer, right? Red for 40 seconds, green for 40 seconds, same loop, all night, forever. That's how most people think traffic lights work. A simple clock. Here's the problem. That assumption is wrong. The light above isn't counting down. It's watching you. Buried in the asphalt beneath your tires, there's a wire loop running an electromagnetic field. Your car just disrupted it. And that disruption is only the beginning of what's actually happening here. Most traffic lights in modern cities are not running fixed timers. They are running on demand. The loop beneath you, called an inductive loop detector, sends a constant electromagnetic field toward the surface. When your car parks over it, the metal in your chassis disrupts that field. The controller reads the disruption, logs your presence, and starts calculating how long you have been waiting, how many vehicles are queued behind you, what the cross traffic looks like, and whether this is rush hour or 2 a.m. The light is not just counting, it is reading the situation and making a decision in real time. The inductive loop is simple technology, copper wire cut into the asphalt in a rectangle roughly the size of a car. It costs almost nothing, but it tells the controller everything. Newer intersections layer additional sensors on top. Video cameras with motion detection, radar, sometimes infrared. Systems can distinguish a car from a truck, from a bus, from a bicycle. Some can estimate queue length in real time, how many vehicles are stacked and waiting, which directly influences how long green will run. The controller is not just flipping a switch, it is solving a small optimization equation, constantly, every few seconds. Here's where it gets strange. Your instinct says longer. Green means better traffic flow, more time, more cars through, better movement. That makes complete sense. And it's exactly wrong. If you give one intersection an oversized green phase, you push a dense surge of vehicles downstream, but the next light may not be ready for them. Cars stack up mid-block. The downstream intersection backs up. Now you've cleared one bottleneck and created 3 more. This is why traffic engineers sometimes deliberately shorten a green phase. Not because they forgot, but because they're protecting the next intersection's ability to function. The unit of management isn't a single light, it's the corridor. This is the architecture of a green wave. If you've ever traveled an arterial road and caught green after green after green, you weren't lucky. Someone calculated that. The timing offsets between consecutive lights are designed so that a car traveling at the target speed arrives at each successive light just as it opens, like a zipper unfolding ahead of you. But the cost is real. Every light in that corridor has surrendered some of its local efficiency. It's not serving the cars directly in front of it as well as it theoretically could. It's serving the system. A single intersection trying to optimize for itself breaks the wave. So the controllers are deliberately constrained, locally dumber, systemically smarter. Behind all of this is infrastructure most drivers never see. Traffic management centers, rooms full of screens where operators monitor live camera feeds across entire cities, manually override signals during major incidents, and push emergency timing plans when a stadium empties or a freeway shuts at rush hour. Beneath the operators, adaptive software systems run continuously. Programs called SCOOT and SCATs recalculate signal offsets, cycle lengths, and phase splits across entire districts every few minutes, based on live detector data flowing from hundreds of intersections simultaneously. They're not programming the network once and stepping away. They're continuously adjusting it in real time for conditions that change by the minute. And there's something most drivers have experienced without knowing what caused it. You're sitting at a green and it holds longer than it should. A bus clears the intersection just before the phase ends. That wasn't random. That was transit signal priority. The bus silently requested a green extension from the controller to stay on schedule. Most drivers have no idea this is happening. Emergency vehicle preemption goes further still. When an ambulance approaches, the system doesn't just flip one light green. It runs what engineers call a flush cycle, clears every active phase, holds all directions red, waits for the box to physically empty, then opens a clean corridor. That brief moment where every direction goes red just before a fire truck passes isn't a malfunction. It's the system executing exactly as designed. Here's the part that surprises people who work in traffic engineering. They deliberately build delay into green phases. Between every phase change, there's a gap where all directions are simultaneously red. Engineers call it an all-red clearance interval, and the instinct, especially from anyone focused on efficiency, is to eliminate it. Keep cars moving, minimize red time, maximize throughput. But cities that have trimmed those intervals have watched intersection collision rates rise. Because the pause is the margin between a vehicle running a late yellow and the first car launching off a fresh green. Remove it, and that margin disappears. The system looks slower than it needs to be. That perceived slowness is structural. It is the reason you don't get hit. Traffic control hasn't always worked this way. In the 1920s, Detroit and Cleveland were among the first American cities to replace human traffic officers with automatic electric signals. Deaths at intersections dropped. That worked. But by the 1950s, as cities expanded rapidly, engineers began decoupling signals from each other to simplify maintenance. Every light ran its own independent program. No coordination, no wave, and gridlock spread not from more cars, but from the loss of synchronization. Cities that had been moving started seizing. The response was the development of centralized control networks through the 1960s. The modern coordinated signal grid didn't emerge from foresight. It emerged because decentralization was tried, failed visibly, and had to be reversed under pressure. Now go back to things you've seen 100 times and never knew how to read. The slight pause after your light turns green before cross-traffic actually clears, that's the all-red interval finishing. The intersection is physically emptying. The flashing yellow arrow at a left turn signal, that's not a lazy engineering compromise. Sensors detected low oncoming volume. The controller downgraded the phase to permissive, letting you turn on judgment rather than waiting for a protected green. The pedestrian crossing button that seems to do nothing, in most cities during peak hours, it actually does nothing. The pedestrian phase is already cycling automatically. The button only matters off-peak when someone needs to manually call a phase that isn't running. You have been pressing a placebo. None of this works perfectly. Inductive loops crack, degrade, fill with water, lose sensitivity, often for months before anyone identifies the failure. That's the origin of stuck reds and phantom phases. A controller running on stale assumptions because the detector beneath the road quietly stopped working. Motorcycles are a persistent problem in cities that haven't upgraded their sensors. Low-mass vehicles often don't disrupt the electromagnetic field strongly enough to register. If you've ever sat on a motorcycle at a red that simply never changed for you, you've met this gap firsthand. It has no universal fix. And the infrastructure is a genuine patchwork. AI-assisted adaptive systems running 3 blocks from 1970s electromechanical controllers on the same arterial because replacement budgets move slowly. Weather break sensors. Events overwhelm timing plans never designed for stadium discharge. Road construction shifts physical geometry the controller still thinks is original. Even the most sophisticated signal networks require constant human oversight. The self-managing system needs a lot of management. So the light you're sitting under at midnight, the one that felt pointless, the one you assumed was running a mindless loop, is actually the visible surface of a system coordinating vehicle detection, phase sequencing, pedestrian demand, bus priority, emergency preemption, and corridor wave timing, simultaneously, every few seconds, across every intersection in the city. The red isn't arbitrary. The delay is load-bearing. Every ordinary commute is the output of thousands of micro-decisions made by systems most drivers will never think about. And here's the door that's starting to open. If the light can already watch your car, what happens when it can talk directly to it? Vehicle-to-infrastructure communication, V2I, is in active pilot programs right now. Your car receives green wave timing before you reach the intersection. A dashboard countdown appears. The light knows your speed and tells you whether to coast or accelerate to catch the next wave. The traffic light spent a century quietly reading you from beneath the road. It's about to start having a conversation.